So there is one single first step that I start with when in my reversing prediabetes program for women in midlife. And it's really important. There are three reasons that I start with this method, and it's proven because so much of what we do when we first diagnose people with prediabetes or insulin resistance is we give them a list of things to avoid and maybe a restriction around protein and carbohydrates. But truthfully, it's so much more than the numbers. So many things have to happen in your body in order for insulin resistance to reverse, because that's the underlying cause of prediabetes. And I find that so much of the discussion is focused on optimizing numbers and not really addressing that underlying cause. And when you talk about changing patterns, it's so much more than numbers. So what do I start with? So first, I'm going to be doing a masterclass on Wednesday night where I'm going to go over all of the foundational principles that I focus on when I help people reverse prediabetes. And in my 12-week program where women have had amazing results, this is what we do. We focus on doing these same foundational things again and again. So if you want to join me on Wednesday evening, the link will be below. So make sure you grab that. So what is the thing that I start with? I start with an abundance of fruits and vegetables. And there are many reasons why I say that. Number one, so much of what messaging we hear as women is about restriction and limitation. And that changes our brain. It changes how we look at food. It changes what we eat and how we build our meals. And because of that, we are often leaving out the things that are the key to reversing insulin resistance. And that, again, is the key. We want to address that underlying cause. We don't want to just focus on managing the numbers. If we're just focused on managing the numbers, then yeah, maybe somebody's going to say avoid fruit. But let me tell you, when we are talking about reversing insulin resistance, we're talking about changing things on a cellular level. We're talking about improving insulin sensitivity. We're talking about lowering inflammation. We're talking about improving our gut health. And these things require much more than manipulation of the numbers. So why I start with fruits and vegetables. So number one, it's an abundance, because number one, often we treat fruits and vegetables as a side. You know, if we grew up, which I did, eating the typical American diet, it's meat, right? You build your meal around the meat, and then you have the sides. And that's how most of us eat. Of course, I'm vegetarian now, so that's not how I eat anymore. But truthfully, that's how I grew up eating. That's what I ate for most of my life was, the meat and the sides. I'm planning dinner. I'm like, oh, we're going to have whatever it is, and then the sides. So we automatically make this amount of vegetables compared to the amount of meat we consume. And if we can just shift that one thing, that is a game changer. Just changing that mindset around abundance. And that is so important, because I will tell you that is one of the hardest things to break. We have had these patterns for decades, right? We're adults. We've lived this way. We've grown up this way. We've prepared food this way. So breaking that mindset around abundance is one of the hardest things that women in my program have. But I'm telling you, it is the thing that makes the biggest difference. Just by doing that one shift, that's the first thing we do. People notice increased energy. They notice their digestion starts to improve. They notice they feel better. They start to lose weight, actually, even though that's not the focus of my program, and we never count weight, but you do notice that you lose weight when you focus on making those foods the mainstay. The other main thing about these foods is they support our gut health. So fruits and vegetables, when we consume them abundantly, it can change the pattern of our microbiome. Our microbiome controls so much of our health. It controls our immune system, so our inflammatory markers. It controls our digestion. It controls our mood. So we make these things called short-chain fatty acids, and those go around our body, and they act in many positive ways. But they only happen when our body ferments fiber, and that fiber is found in plant foods. So consuming an abundance of plant foods starts to shift the microbiome. Now, I'm telling you, it's not overnight, but within 30 days, your microbiome can change, and that change is key. I can't tell you how important it is to improving your health overall. You'll notice that as your microbiome changes, your digestion changes. If you've had bloating before, it changes. If you have problem going to the bathroom, that changes as well. And it's better eating fruits and vegetables, and the variety of fruits and vegetables beats commercial probiotic every day. The third big thing that happens when you consume abundance of fruits and vegetables is it changes your taste. And that's probably one of the most important things, because we grow up, and in America we consume a lot of processed foods or meat and dairy, and that changes how our body and our brains respond to foods. When we consume an abundance of plant foods, it changes our taste buds, and they become more heightened and more sensitive to the different flavors and textures of plant foods. And that is so powerful, because when you do that, you start to crave these foods. And again, this is another thing that doesn't happen overnight, but if you're looking for a lasting, sustainable change, this is one of the most important things. So you want your body, because your body thrives on these plant foods. When we consume these foods abundantly, as I mentioned, it improves our gut health, it improves our insulin sensitivity, it lowers inflammation. But when we crave these foods, because so much of what I talk about is joy and enjoyment, and we should enjoy our foods. So during that first part of the program is in consuming in abundance and trying different flavors and textures, so that you can find the foods that you enjoy, and you notice that over time those flavors become heightened. And that is where the magic is, because flavor is medicine, truthfully, and joy is medicine, and it's all connected. So those are the three main reasons. So again, the abundance factor, so changing your mindset around food, the gut health factor, and the taste. Those are the three main reasons why I start with this in my program. Now, again, if you want to join me on Wednesday night, I'm going to talk more about the steps that are foundational to reversing insulin resistance. I don't talk about any hacks or any special way to any special numbers or anything like that, except for maybe fiber, which I'm sure you've heard me talk about before. But truthfully, these are the foundational principles that, when repeated again and again, not chasing the next shiny thing, because that happens. I myself sometimes am tricked by the headlines. But truthfully, it's the foundational principles repeated again and again that make the biggest difference when we talk about reversing insulin resistance and creating lifelong health. If this was helpful, make sure to share it with somebody that you know will benefit. Save it. Make sure you follow along, because I'm always talking about how we can reverse insulin resistance, how we can reclaim control of our health in a way that is joyful. So, thanks for watching.